Right at the hour. So I want to welcome everyone who has already joined. I still see some people coming in, but let's start off this panel discussion. Today we will have two retailers, two brands with us that will guide us through a panel discussion together with someone from Meetup and make sure that we understand better what their journey is when it comes to omnichannel initiatives and RFID in that regard. And before we start, I would like to explain you a little bit about how the tool works and what the timings are of today. So first of all, we will take roughly about 30 minutes to cover all the content. But in those 30 minutes, we also want to make sure that we answer your questions. So if you have any questions, please send them in via the Q&A section that you can find in the control panel, either at the top or the bottom of your screen. And we will filter the questions, look at them, and try to answer them right away via the chat function, via the Q&A section, or we will, of course, direct them to our panel. We will have two polls throughout this panel discussion, just to gauge a little bit what the audience thoughts are on certain topics and what your current position is when it comes to the questions. So if these pop up on your screen, please feel free to answer them to the situation that fits best. I see my lights have gone off, but hopefully you can still see me. These results will then also be discussed. We will also have a recording of this panel discussion. So if you want to look back into the topics discussed, feel free to look at the recording that we will send you after. And if you have any further questions, we are happy to answer them. So if so, please reach out. And then without any further ado, I would like to introduce today's panel. First of all, Laura Welsh from Superdry, who is the Retail Implementation Manager there. We have Amged Hussien, Retail Logistics Product Owner at PVH. And this panel discussion will be further hosted by Jeroen Struijken, who is the VP of Business Development of Meetup. They will give a further introduction, but in the meantime, I will pop up and I will be managing the questions that come in from the audience. So please send them in if you have any at any point throughout this panel discussion. Laura, can I invite you to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Laura Wells. I'm from Superdry. I'm the Retail Implementation Manager and I'm based in our retail support team in head office. So Superdry is the men's and women's fashion brand and based in the UK. We have around 240 retail-owned stores across the UK, mainland Europe and US.
Thank you for that, Laura. Can you pick up that?
Sorry. Yeah, I'm Amged Hussien, product owner of Retail Inventory Solutions within PVH Europe. I oversee the developments and new and existing inventory solutions within PVH, which RFID, of course, plays a big part in. PVH Europe manages the European operations for both Tommy Hilfiger and Calvin Klein in the region, leveraging about 500 plus owned store and 2,000 plus wholesale partners. We basically seek to maximize the potential of these two brands by leveraging them across new categories and existing and future markets.
Thank you, Amged. Hi, please me to introduce myself. Steffi already was so kind to tell me that I'm Jerome. I'm VP for Business Development at Native Retail, and we bring a cloud-native software as a solution to the market that uses RFID to get real-time item-level visibility of products in the entire supply chain of retailers and brands. This is helping store teams initially to better serve customers in store, but of course, in the current climate, we see a lot of the real-time components that we also have being used to help fulfill e-com orders that are coming out of the store. And that's being used to make sure that even the last unit gets sold out of the store stock. The product is called ID Cloud. So if you hear me or one of the panelists mention that name, then you know that is the product, the software solution that we bring to market. And I'm really pleased to have these distinguished guests with me today to talk about their RFID journey and the connection to omnichannel. Normally we'd be sitting on a stage in New York, but in today's world, that's not really feasible. So in this case, these kind of events work very well virtually. So in that way, it's not so bad. But I really would be looking forward to doing the same thing next year again in a full house on stage in New York. So bear with us for that moment. Right. Let's get further into the content. Initially, Laura, can you tell me a little bit about your first encounters with RFID? When was that, and how was that?
Yeah, so first encounter with RFID was roughly about 3.5 years ago, and we started exploring the feasibility of launching RFID in our retail stores. And we initially started with a 5-store pilot just about 3 years ago now, and then since then we've obviously expanded then to every retail-owned store across the globe. Cool.
Yeah, now we will touch on the journey a little bit later on. Amged, your first encounters or interactions with RFID. When was it?
My first encounter, especially with PVH, was about 1 year ago. Actually, feels like 2. But yeah, that was indeed where I was hired to actually look at new developments where we already were working on the basic rollout, but now trying to capitalize on the huge potential of RFID functionalities within PVH.
Nice. Well, so some experience under your belt, both. I think that's valuable. Some of our audience will have that experience. Some of them won't. So that's very, very interesting for everybody. Steffi, can I ask you to start the first poll, because I'm quite keen to learn where our audience is in terms of their RFID journey. And
yes, indeed. So we have our first poll that should appear on your screen right now with the question, where are you on your RFID journey? Just to understand a little bit better where you are at and what information you would like to have from our panel today. So the options are: we do not have any RFID activities, we are investigating potential RFID use cases, we started an RFID pilot project, we started again an RFID pilot project, and we have already fully deployed RFID. And I see most of you are still filling out their answers, so we just give it a couple more seconds so that we have all the answers collected and have a good overview of what everyone's thoughts are and everyone's positions are for the audience today. Just a few more seconds and then I'll close our poll and we can have a look at the results together. Now you should be able to see the results as well. And we see that quite a large part of the audience actually already has fully deployed RFID, but there's also quite a few of you that are either investigating or just started or don't have any activities. So we have quite a mixed audience. What does that tell you, Jeroen?
Well, I think it's a proper reflection of the market. I mean, I would be surprised if everybody turned up saying they're fully deployed, because that would mean that we have a very select audience. Not have any RFID activities is a slight surprise to a degree. Maybe people are not, let's say, in the position of using technology yet, or are coming from a slightly different area out of the industry. But I see that most retailers have dipped their toe in the water and beyond. So that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so on that RFID journey, you guys you've gone further than the pilots. You've now mostly deployed or fully deployed. Can you tell us a little bit about the journey, Laura?
Yeah, so we started our journey about 3 years ago. Initially, we were the different supplier, came onto NEDAP for our full rollout, which we finished just at the start of 2020, so just before the pandemic, luckily. So yeah, as I said before, we've got it deployed across all our retail-owned stores. We're using it to improve inventory accuracy in the stores, but also using it for location availability and helping to support some of our omnichannel initiatives also. Yeah.
So this is where you are today. And could you summarize it to maybe what does it bring you?
Yeah, so it's definitely brought us improved inventory accuracy, and that's been our main focus and the main drivers to why we deployed RFID. Without RFID, we had around 85% inventory accuracy, and we've seen a huge significant improvement by having it. And it's really allowed us to give us visibility into where our stock is across our retail estate.
Yeah, we'll touch on how that works in a minute. But before we go there, Amged, for you, the RFID journey for PVH, where are you today?
It has been quite a journey, actually. I think we started out also somewhere in 2017, and with the basic rollout of just increasing stock accuracy and making sort of the stock in the stores more visible. There's where we almost fully deployed in all of our stores as well, which we do see a huge indeed benefit of the accuracy that we get back of our stock on a weekly basis. And we're looking forward to actually increasing that to a real-time situation where we actually are able to say at any given moment what is exactly in our stores. We can capitalize on that based on using omnichannel initiatives, of course, which we are already doing at a small part, but definitely want to increase in the coming period.
Okay. Laura, touching on the accuracy aspect, are you using different KPIs, or are you looking at the same metrics for now?
The same metrics for now, yeah.
Yeah. And you, Amged, is it accuracy first, and what's beyond that?
Yeah, accuracy for just specifically utilizing RFID, but we are now looking to actually incentivize the usage of stock accuracy with our omnichannel initiatives. So leveraging the KPIs from the omnichannel initiatives to really see the strength and the benefits that you get with having stock accuracy.
Mm-hmm. Maybe before sensitive question, maybe, but do you see RFID proving a business case in itself to what it's doing today, or do you feel that it needs to be leveraged more to really give you the big bang for your buck? Amged.
Yeah, I think that it's twofold in that direction. So basically, we see RFID in itself already provides huge benefits for our stores, streamlining and making processes more efficient, and of course providing that accuracy. And then also in the second line where we see with that visualization that we actually can capitalize also on from the omnichannel initiatives. So in itself it has its benefits, and also indirectly it will benefit other initiatives that we have as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions coming in, so it's hard to answer all of them because some of them are quite specific, but I think they're quite valuable.
Yes, I think one that came in that directly relates to what we've been talking to is about accuracy. We mentioned accuracy, but is there anything we can say about what the typical accuracy would be using RFID? And I would first like to ask Laura, but maybe Jeroen, you also already have an answer to that. So first,
I think Laura, you started answering that question before, so can repeat that.
Yeah, so we've seen a big increase in inventory accuracy. We're currently sitting around 98% inventory accuracy, and with the view to keep improving week on week. And it's definitely clear when you put a huge focus on it with your store teams that you will see that uplift and getting close to that 99% mark all the time.
Exactly. Were there any hurdles you need to overcome to get to that accuracy? Because that's the question I saw also pop in.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's being a focused. I think initially we've learned from the initial rollout is having that drive and it constantly being talked about within our retail estate. When there's not so much of a focus on it, then you definitely see kind of the numbers start to drop. But with that, the reporting that we provide our stores and it constantly, like I said, being something that's talked about, there's a huge drive to kind of get that up higher.
Another question before we jump to Amged. Are you just using RFID for the on-hand inventory, or is it also influencing the upstream replenishment?
At the moment, it's mainly in store, but obviously because we're updating our inventory accuracy on a weekly basis, then it does allow us to push in the right replenishment levels to the stores and ensure that the right stock is in there at the right time. Thank
you, Laura. And Amged, what is your perspective on the accuracy and the replenishment?
Yeah, indeed. I think that for us, it's almost the same indeed that what Laura mentioned, that we are around 98%. We have a very strong rollout team led by Sedan. And I think that to the point that what Laura mentioned, that if you see that the stores are really focusing on getting that accuracy level higher. Actually, we just visited a store this morning that has a 99.5 accuracy. So it's quite interesting to see. And yeah, the fun thing is actually if you make that a competition, they become even better. So it's a nice incentive to get it up to 100.
That's a stellar result. I mean, getting above that is going to be superhuman effort. But
they're eager to do it, so we'll see how it goes.
See how it goes. Right. There's lots of questions coming in, but we'll pick up a few later on in the conversation. I wanted to a little bit look at the market situation today. Of course, the world has changed slightly over the last 12 months. I mean, New Year's resolutions January last year were slightly different than they were this year. Do you also see that, Amged?
Yeah, absolutely. I see that the environment, of course, changed, and yeah, the way we set our roadmaps accelerated quite significantly. To be honest, we set out actually to in 2020, before this all happened, to as I said, real-time inventory in our sales floors, and actually that is something that hasn't changed. It's something that we see actually that has been even prioritized more due to this pandemic, which actually benefits all the initiatives that helps us, especially in these times, to serve our consumers.
Yeah, I think you touch on a key element that has changed from our perspective. When let's say, maybe not a year, but a little bit more than a year ago, RFID was still very much about stock accuracy, improvements, maybe weekly counts, but essentially now projects that we're running, but also the project that we encounter in the market, all about instantly real time, because yeah, it makes sense. I mean, having that problem resolved, that you never know exactly what you have in store and where it is key. So for you, Laura, how different was the start of this year compared to last year?
Yeah, it's very different. Similar to Amged, you know, we've really had to accelerate some of our omnichannel initiatives. It's one of ours, ship from store, and we've seen a huge emphasis on that. And the last 12 months have shown us that, you know, we have to be really flexible and adapt very quickly to the change, and can't afford for our stock to be sat in locations where we're currently not trading. So we've had to be really flexible in what we're doing and how we're moving our inventory around.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, so on that topic, the digital roadmap has accelerated. I hear Amged saying we had another poll on that. Steffi, maybe we can start a poll to see where the audience sees that.
Yes, indeed, because we of course also want to understand what's happening for you in this regard. So did you see an increased demand for curbside pickup, for example, or ship from store, or click and collect, or BOPIS? And does that influence your RFID plans? So the answer options are no, somewhat, significantly, or it's a key driver. And again, I'll give you a few more seconds to fill out your answers. I see many answers coming in already, and some of you are still sending in their results. So we'll take a few more seconds just for you to fill out whether you see there is a bigger need for RFID plans now that there is an increased demand for curbside pickup and ship from store. Still see answers coming in. So many people answering. That's a good sign.
People hesitating what to answer, right?
And they need to think about it for a little while. And I think now it's time to end our polling and share the results. Hopefully you can now see the results on your screen. And as expected, quite some of you, 35% answered that it's quite significantly increased the need for RFID. Some of you are not really feeling it yet. They still answered no, but most of you do feel the need for curbside for RFID in regards to omnichannel initiatives.
Yeah.
Did you expect that as well, Jeroen?
Yes, but of course, distribution is interesting. Having it about no somewhat significantly. A key driver is to a degree I would expect a lot of people to answer that. But I'm sure people are taking into consideration what they already have today. Maybe they already had all these initiatives in place, and it's not let's say, the real foundation that they need to build on. But maybe ask that our panelists by saying, do you feel that the RFID technology and, for instance, ship from store are going hand in hand, or could you do without, or would you want to do it without? Amged is smiling. Is that is that an answer?
Yeah, well, I would say if you want to live on the edge, then definitely do it without. You want to keep your customers satisfied and coming back to you, then I think it is a requirement. You cannot ship from store without having accurate stock, and there's no way in measuring accurate stock at the moment without RFID in that respect, not in an efficient and cost efficient way. So no, there's no for me at least no other opportunity than using RFID.
For you, Laura, is that the same, or?
Yeah, it's the same for us. You know, they kind of go hand in hand. We really wouldn't probably have looked at the ship from store proposition unless we had inventory accuracy in the first place from RFID.
Because you did launch that, or more significantly launch that over the last 9 months.
Correct. Yeah. So something we've been piloting. I think originally we were looking 18 months ago, but the full launch, happened within the last 9 months and accelerated quite quickly. But yeah, without having that inventory accuracy, there's no way we could have really surfaced our stock to the web in the current position we were in.
We understand that it's driven by accuracy, I guess. Is there in-store benefits as well that you see store teams using RFID to faster or easier fulfill these orders?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, without RFID, it would take a lot longer to fulfill an order. I think in a store, it's quite difficult because you have stock in pretty much anywhere and it can cover quite a large floor space, and they're not set up in the same way as a DC is set up to handle orders in that respect. So having ID Cloud available for the store teams to be able to carry out location searches and know exactly which location it is and find an item really quickly, it just helps speed up that order process.
Nice. Yeah, that's. We see that the store teams even become creative from time to time, and that they use the RFID technology for things that we didn't initially devise it for, but it works.
Exactly.
Hi, Steffi. You have questions.
Indeed, it means I have a question from the audience again that fits the topic we're discussing right now, because the question was, can we be a little bit more specific in omnichannel KPIs? Is it, for example, inventory buffers as well, or reduced order cancellations? What are you thinking of when you mention omnichannel KPIs?
Who's able to pick that up? Anybody have an opinion about it or a feeling? Laura, anything you have to say what you feel that the omnichannel aspects in RFID and KPIs are? Yeah,
I mean, for us, omnichannel KPIs, it just allows us to, to prevent back orders and cancellations on our e-commerce channel by having the ship from store, and that's kind of the KPIs we would look at from that perspective. RFID.
Did you see significant reductions in order cancellations? Of course, it's always very difficult because you were kind of piloting it already with RFID in place, but maybe not so much. Do you have any feel on how that improved?
Yeah, it is an improvement. It's probably something we haven't specifically measured enough of, but you do see quite the benefit in terms of being able to fulfill orders that would have potentially not been able to without having that ability to fulfill them in a store location.
You also look at aspects as trying to fulfill it in the shortest route or the lowest carrier cost or these kind of things?
Currently no, but that's something we would look to in the future.
Yeah. Is that something that's for PVH is a topic?
Definitely, yes. I would say that indeed we are in the same fleet. I think it's a very good question, and in that respect, we started out with the KPIs that we set for RFID specific, and especially during the pandemic, we see that actually measuring the KPIs from omnichannel capabilities are more and more significant. So as we continue developing and improving this, we see definitely benefits also, like you said, in facilitating product from a consumer to our consumer at the shortest route. And I think that our consumer doesn't care where he gets the product from. He just wants it as soon as possible. And those KPIs will definitely help us track how beneficial using RFID is.
Okay. Any learnings that you've taken in the last 9 months that you could share?
Yeah, I think that in the last 9 months we've focused heavily on selling through our partner Zalando, and that is something where we do see a huge benefit in basically orders that come through to Zalando are being shipped from a store nearby the customer. And that is where we indeed are now starting to track those KPIs. And to be honest, we are also in the stage where we need to figure out how do we do that. But this is something that is on the roadmap as well. Yeah,
it's a very interesting initiative to leverage the platform of Zalando for your store stock. Is it something you see as well, Laura? Is that something on the horizon? Something that would fit in the world of Superdry?
Yeah, definitely. I think we'll definitely have it in our roadmap to start looking at, fulfilling orders from the best possible route to get to the customer as quick as possible. And it's definitely on that, like I said, it's on the roadmap.
Nice. Anything else that you guys are able to share? I know some of it may be confidential because tomorrow's plans, you're not going to give it away to the competition. But are there things that you feel that you can share with the audience that what will be next after you now ship from stores in place in certain areas? What else would you like to implement as omnichannel service? Laura, maybe first.
Yeah, I think basically. Click and collect from store inventory, something we use from our DC, but definitely on the radar is to kind of fulfill those orders from a store level as opposed to shipping it unnecessarily. So that's kind of what would be next on our radar. Okay,
Amged, from you?
Yeah, I think that we want to continue leveraging shipping from store in different models. So as I mentioned, we are doing it now through Zalando. And we're also looking into doing it through our own e-com platform, as well as leveraging more partners and maybe in the future. So this is something that we are looking into, maybe not in the next weeks, but definitely in the coming future.
Soon as
possible.
Very nice, very nice. Looking at the clock, being conscious that we promised to keep it about half an hour. Right, maybe summarizing, I think that the importance of having RFID in place for delivering to the omnichannel promise is something we all underline, that how we would do it without would be hard, right? If we then have retailers here in the audience that are not on the RFID journey yet, if you have any advice to give them, thinking about probably the omnichannel challenges that they also have. Amged, anything you would like to share?
Yeah, I would say make sure you have a very strong vision for using RFID within your company. I think the applications of RFID are huge, but that in itself could also be a pitfall. So make sure that you have a strong North Star where you want to go, and see which applications of RFID would be able to help you in that. And a story that you can tell also to get buy-in from your customers, because that is, it's sometimes quite challenging to get the change of mindset within the organization. And having a strong story will help you definitely in the long run.
I think it's very sound aspect. There's 100,000 things you could do with RFID, but which ones do you really need?
Exactly.
Laura, what would it be for you?
Yeah, I think it's similar. It's been really clear on what it is you're setting out to achieve in the first place, and realizing those goals as well. And I think also as well as bringing your store teams along on the journey with you and getting their buy-in, because that's plays such a huge part in the adoption of RFID as a technology. It really does bring a benefit to every single person working in the store, from how we're using it anyway, and having them brought in. Like I said, it plays a huge role in how it's adopted and the success of it.
You mean in terms of engagement, making people understand how it helps them?
Yes, yeah, it's it does bring benefit in my eyes to every single member of staff you have in store, in giving them the ability to have location information on every single item in the store, which is something that without RFID you just don't have.
Excellent. Well, I think those are very sound advices, so I really appreciate that. I think we're opening the floor now. Steffi, you want to take the reins and see how we pick up some of the questions that still remain in the audience? Steffi is fallen off the radar, I guess. So let me have a quick look if there's anything we can say straight off.
Here I am. Sorry, some connectivity issue. We are exactly at the 30-minute mark, and that means that we want to have an official thank you for our two panelists. So thank you very much, Laura and Amged, for sharing your story related to RFID and the omnichannel promise. And I think, Jeroen, you already summarized it very nicely, that those really go hand in hand. And for the future, they will remain important. That's for sure after seeing this panel discussion. Jeroen, also thank you very much for guiding us through the questions. We still have some questions left. So if you are in for a little bit more, we will stay on a little longer to answer some additional questions. If not, we really want to thank you for your time. And if you have any other questions that you want to get back to us about later, feel free to reach out to any of us, and we are happy to help you further. Then the remaining questions. There were still quite a lot of remaining questions, so we will try to get through as many as we can, of course, but maybe not all of them, just a little disclaimer. We got several questions about RFID in relation to an EAS solution. Is that something Superdry and PVH are also looking into? And PVH, Amged, maybe you can kickstart answering this question.
Yes, definitely. We see also a huge potential in utilizing EAS gates for our home stores. At the moment, yeah, we're looking into how can we best do that. It's of course quite an investment as well, but we also see a huge benefit in that. So we're at the moment looking at, okay, what is the return on investment, and how can we best leverage this technology, also utilizing RFID as EAS tags in our stores. So this is something that we are looking into. Yes.
Thank you, Amged. And Laura, how's that for Superdry?
Yeah, similar for us. I think it's something we are looking at in the very early stages. We recognize the benefits that it would bring, and it's, like I said, something that we are exploring.
Thank you, Laura. And another question about another use case compared to the store is about RFID at the DC. If you're interested in this topic, I can also recommend you looking at our website to find a masterclass specifically about the DC. But as we're here right now, let's look at the vision of Superdry and PVH on this. So are you thinking of implementing RFID at the DC? And do you already have an idea in which use case? Laura, maybe you can start off.
It's something we've currently not implemented. I think it's definitely something we'd look to explore and build a use case around. And all of our items are all source tagged, so it would bring a huge benefit for us to be utilizing it in the DC. So it's something that's definitely for us to look at.
And do you already know, do you already have some use cases in mind, or is that something that you really still need to explore?
Yeah, I think there's some, it requires a lot of further exploration, but I think we recognize the benefit it brings in terms of the inventory that's coming in from suppliers, and obviously being able to reconcile that with what they've shipped, and being quite quickly able to distinguish what the discrepancies are. So I think, you know, we recognize there are quite a lot of benefits to it.
Thank you. And Amged, do you have similar experiences at PVH, or is it a different scenario for you?
Yeah, at the moment we are also focusing more on the store and to make sure that we get that up to par. But we always have the DC in mind. It is quite an undertaking, especially with our DC, which is quite huge. But of course, with that also there are huge benefits. We understand that. We are not looking into specific use cases. However, we know that with the receiving and with the outbound we can potentially capitalize on utilizing RFID and that as well.
Thank you, Amged. Jeroen, do you have any experience also related to this topic that you still want to share with the audience?
Oh no, there's plenty of that, but I think it's slightly different. What kind of your brands? You have a lot of wholesale partners. Are you very protective about your brand? So authentication of products. So there's lots of aspects that come into play when you go further up the supply chain, and it's not necessarily one thing that drives it. What I do see is that a lot of retailers are thinking about all the use cases, but in the end starts around the outbound. So checking what's leaving DC, in that sense, making sure that the inaccuracies that could have been prevented are already prevented at the moment they happen. So the store receives inventory, it knows 100% what it's going to get. And also when you ship out to your wholesale partners, there's not going to be any debate anymore about what was shipped, because RFID is then the golden standard. So any chargebacks and such are then easier alleviated. So those are the use cases we see happening the most initially.
Thank you, Jeroen, for that addition. And there's a question related to franchise partners. Do you also use RFID at franchise partners, or are you planning on using that? And Laura, maybe you can kick it off.
Yeah, it's something currently that I know there's a couple that do use it, but it's not widely rolled out across our franchise partners. It's entirely up to them really in terms of whether they adopt it or not.
What I could see, I mean, maybe that's for both of us, but sorry to jump in, is that both of you being strong brands, is that in an omnichannel world, of course, your partners could be part of that omnichannel aspect. So fulfill via a partner if you can't fulfill it yourself. If the partner is closer to the end consumer, that to me is what could be a very big unlock with RFID data, because if you know 100% what you have and where you have it, as a brand, you have an interesting position. Do you see that? Amged, maybe.
Yeah, I can. It's basically the same example what's happening now with e-com, right? So basically, we utilize Zalando to ship from our stores, but we definitely see having that flexible, inventory where we are able to actually leverage from also physical partners would definitely be something that would be a win-win situation in that partnership. Because again, our consumer does not care where he gets the product from. He just wants to have it as soon as possible. So yeah, we do see the benefit there as well. But of course, there's a lot of challenges with that as well. So yeah, that's something that we're looking into as well. Yeah.
Or for you, is that something you've seen?
Yeah, I think obviously opening up the inventory in franchise partners would be a huge benefit.
My prediction a little bit here is this is going to be one of the big things that will happen in the coming 2 years, where some major brands will pick up this challenge. And yes, there's plenty of things to overcome, but in the end, if you can create a win-win-win, then it makes sense for everybody, right? And it's possible, in my opinion.
Yeah, something to look forward to for sure.
Yeah.
We have a question that comes back to something we talked about before with the advice to retailers. Someone agrees with you, Amged, that vision is 100% definitely important. However, the right sponsorship and the right key team is also very important. Can you explain a little bit how the RFID initiative at PVH is managed and how your organization drives the future roadmap? So, and how would that potentially extend beyond retail capabilities?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I can say we have an awesome team. So we basically, when I joined 1 year before, of course, there was already a team there driving the RFID initiative. And I can say that it is definitely key to have the right people on board, especially because RFID is not just an implementation of technology, it's an implementation of new processes and a new mindset. That you also have to focus on with your team. So it's not just implementing new technology, it's also a change management that you need to focus on. So having the right people driving that also throughout the organization will definitely help in using RFID the best way that you can for your organization. And with that, we are looking into, I'm trying to look into together with our team to see, okay, well, what do we want to achieve? And sometimes it's not easy because everyone has an opinion about it. Everyone wants to go a different direction. So having just collaboration with everyone that's involved and getting their buy-in to one North Star, that will definitely help you within the organization.
Thank you, Amged. And is that the same for you, Laura, at Superdry? What was your experience when it comes to team and sponsorship within the organization?
Yeah, it's very similar. You have to have every single department that it impacts on board with it and fully understanding RFID in the process. And that's something we've learned along the way. It's not something we had right from the very start, or, we're really all that aware. It is a journey that you, that inevitably sometimes you make mistakes on. It's how you learn from them. But going forward, it's something we collaborate on much more widely across the business now.
So you also made progress towards that while you were actually working on RFID already and while you were deploying RFID in your stores.
Yeah.
Good for everyone to know that it doesn't have to hold you back, but it's something to definitely keep in mind. Thank you. We have some questions regarding labels. So I hope you may be able to answer them a little bit, maybe not to the full extent, but let's just give it a try. So first of all, the question is, are you using RFID inlays in the price tickets, and what is the percentage of garments that you have RFID tagged? Laura, do you have the numbers on that?
Yeah, so we currently RFID tag every item in store, and it's done within the pricing label, and it's created at source. So everything from, I think, about 1.5 years ago now comes tagged from source.
Great. And Amged, do you have the numbers on top of your mind?
I know that we tag everything, but I know that also we would love to say that we source tagging, but at the moment we're tagging from the DC. But in that we also do that on the price tag. Yeah.
Thank you. And Jeroen, do you, from your experiences, also see differences regarding to that? Here we have two retailers, two brands that tag everything. Is that common?
It is the ultimate goal. It's having two processes running in your organization is suboptimal, but we've seen implementation where it makes sense to exclude certain categories just because, it's too hard to label them, or to a degree you could argue that the costs are too high for that product category. But it's mostly about the fact that if you label this portion of your products, the business case is the biggest. That's where I see that happening. But eventually, it all goes towards 100% because you don't want to have those two processes running in parallel for too long.
Indeed, and that doesn't mean that it should hold you back, as I understand you, Jeroen, to get started if you don't have it 100% yet. But the end goal would always be to tag up everything.
It's kind of knowledge. It's inevitable. If you agree to to what our panelists also underline, that RFID is a prerequisite to a degree to have accurate store inventory, or another inventory, because you can actually use it in DC as well to fulfill e-com orders and do other services towards your customers better. Then starting later doesn't make a lot of sense. You just need to get in there and work yourself through the process of getting everything tagged up with your vendors, with your partners, with your, and so on.
Well, thank you, all three of you. I have one question before we will round it up, because we are close to 45 minutes. And that is a very exciting one for us, hopefully, because the question is, how did you know ID Cloud, so NeedUp RFID solution, was the right solution for you? Amged, can I invite you to give us a little insight into that?
I'll try, because I was actually not part of the RFID journey where we had that partnership with NetApp. I came in later, but I know that utilizing our ID Cloud definitely is something that helped me do my job better, because you were already quite far within the ID Cloud. So we were able to actually go along the journey with you. It's not just ID Cloud, but I think the partnership that we have there helped us really to enable these new functionalities that we're now looking into and rolling out. So for me, it wasn't my choice, but if I would have to choose, then I would definitely say it's a good choice. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's good to hear. So also, to some extent, the completeness of the product hand in hand with the partnership that and the good relation that you were able to build with Neetup.
Yeah.
And how was that for you, Laura? I know that you've been very much involved in the process of making the choice. So maybe for you, a different insight.
Yeah, so for us, there's really two key elements to it. The first was virtual shielding. A big draw to the ID Cloud solution was having the virtual shielding built into the functionality, which allowed us to get location accuracy of our stock within stores. And the second one was really the ease of use of the functionality of ID Cloud. By far, it was the simplest, most straightforward, and in terms of adoption, we thought it would be the best solution for our end users of the store teams. And we were correct in that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Very positive to hear. Jeroen, as you are from Neetup yourself, do you have any final remarks to make, maybe from the partner side?
You mean as a from Neetup as a partner to retailers? Yep. I think it's yes, it's very hard to distinguish one solution from the other. If you really would be looking in the market for finding your vendor, I think it's very much about the partnership and how much your solution provider can help you, not only with implementing the solution today, but help you on their journey. Because I mean, if I would ask a question differently to both my panelists, they would say they're not that far on the journey. But if I actually look at where they are on the journey, they're quite far compared to where the market is. So, but the journey is going to be, we're going to be with them for years and probably maybe decades if we do well. And I think that's where you need to make your choices mostly. Are these people that you're going to work with for a long time going to be helping you with all your future needs? And then the solution itself today, of course, needs to have all the bells and whistles you require. But the partnership and the people are going to be fundamental in success.
Thank you very much, Jeroen, for the addition. I think that was a nice question to round it off with. We have a couple of questions that we can be in touch about. So if you still feel yet you have more questions that you would like to get answers, please reach out to us and we can definitely get back to that on a one-on-one basis. So once again, thank you very much, Laura, Amged, and Jeroen for being here with us. It was delightful to see how you experienced RFID, especially in relation to omnichannel, which is a very big driver for RFID at the moment. And we hope that you will have a great evening. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it.